Hello there and welcome to this video. Today I wanted to do a more business focused video on what appointment setters and closers are. You're going to hear these terms a lot in the sales industry and the lead generation industry. I just wanted to give you a really broad level overview as well as go into what these specific roles are, what some green flags are when you're looking for jobs in these industries, what some red flags are, and just like how I found the experience. I've worked in both roles before and I've worked in roles that combine both. So I think I'll be able to give you a pretty good overview of what to expect and just what these roles are in general. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So I'll go over the appointment setting role to begin with. So this is a job where you are booking calls to your client's calendar, or maybe it's for a closing team for your client. And typically, the client is someone who is doing a service or a product at a high ticket rate. So, for example, they may be selling a $5,000 program, or maybe they're trying to do a done for you service for X amount of dollars per month in like the 4 or 5 figures. And this is why they have other people doing sales for them, is they're so busy delivering on the product and they probably have a team. So this is where you come in. So you're the person who is getting someone from initially interested to booking a call and taking this process a little bit more seriously. So it can be done through several strategies. Some of them are cold calling, cold messaging, and I define cold messaging as messaging someone who's not following your client. So they have no idea who they are, no idea why they should buy from them, all of that. Networking, so just going to networking events. Door knocking, so this is going door to door and saying like, hey, are you interested in this? That's kind of the old school way of selling, but some people still do it. Cold emailing, so again, emailing someone who's never heard about the company that you're booking appointments for. Inbound messages, and I would consider inbound messages not just messages of people saying like, hey, I'm interested, and messaging you or your client, but also people who express interest somehow else. So this could be following the client or the company on a social media site. This could be filling out an application, so just people who are aware of the company. And then inbound emails. So again, people who have expressed some sort of interest, got on an email sequence, given you the email, and they're aware of the company, and you're just kind of reaching out to make that next connection. So oftentimes in this role, you either have a sales goal that you're looking to hit or a number of appointments you need to book in order to hit the key performance indicators. That's what KPI stands for. So it'll be like you need to book 10 appointments this month, and that's kind of like what the expectation is for the role. And then in terms of pay, sometimes it's like a flat rate of like, I'll pay you $1,000 a month as long as you hit KPIs, or I'll pay you $1,000 a month if you work this amount of hours. But other times it's really a commission on calls booked, calls shown, or deals closed. So this means, for example, you could get $20 per call booked if a call shows. Sometimes like these two are kind of interchangeable. So some people say, well, if you book a call, you get a fee, but if the call shows, you get like commission. So typically what I've seen is it's called shown. You'll get a small dollar amount, like $20, something like that, just showing that, okay, you did the work, you got someone to show up on a call. And then deals closed is typically where you get the most amount of a commission. So for example, if someone books a $5,000 package, maybe you get 10% of that. So it really depends. You'd have to kind of like, each industry pays out different, but you just kind of have to figure out like, hey, does this commission make sense? Does it work for me? Do I think I'll be able to close that many deals? And a lot of times like the closer role is getting a commission unless the actual business owners taking the calls, in which case they'll probably get a bigger commission for setting the appointment. So some pros of this role is most of the time you can work remotely, work your own hours. You're not doing the hard selling. So You're not the person on the call being like, hey, buy this. You're just getting people to express interest and have a deeper conversation, have a sales conversation. So it's an easier thing to convert. There's also no limits on how many appointments you can book in a day. So you can book, very few, you can book a ton. It doesn't tie up your time. So there's really no maximum. And therefore, it's kind of like your effort into this is how you get paid. So if you work on it all day long and you're booking several appointments, then I think you have a better chance of getting that commission. Or if this is kind of a side hustle for you, maybe you only work it a couple hours a day and you kind of know that on average, this is how many appointments I book. And over time, as your skill set grows and you're more persuasive and able to get people on calls, maybe you're able to increase this number. Again, it really depends on like the volume, especially if you're doing inbound messages and the quality of the leads and everything like that. So the cons of this role is if you're doing cold messaging, it doesn't always feel good. You'll get a lot of no's, you'll get a lot of people actually being kind of mean to you. And if you're always paid by deals closed, you have to make sure that it's a quality lead getting on the call. So you have to be able to screen them, make sure that, okay, if I booked 5 calls, like, are these people, like, have they indicated that maybe they'll buy? Or are you just getting them on calls and then they're not doing anything, so you're not getting a commission? So you need to make sure that you're looking for the right kind of person and that you're really getting that ideal client right. So when you're looking for a client to do appointment setting for, these are my tried and true green flags and red flags in the process. So some green flags that I've noticed is people who pay a base pay plus commission. So they are committed to you really working for their company. If they're just paying a commission, technically you could get $0. But if they're paying a base pay, typically they have more say in what you're doing. So it's like, you got to work this number of hours, or I need this amount of calls booked. But I really like the base pay plus commission because then it feels like your efforts are going unnoticed. And sometimes it does take a few months really to get in the swing of things, learn the industry, learn the lingo, kind of get in the rhythm of booking people. So I think that if you come across a position that's a base pay or an hourly pay plus a commission, that's definitely a green flag for me. These people are really invested in you staying with the company and learning and growing. All right, people who have in-depth training. So people who are like, I will give you the product that I'm selling or the service that I'm selling, or here is training about it and continuous training about it, and even investing in your sales training. These are the people that you really want to work with because, again, they care a lot about you. They care a lot about your career, as well as just getting you the tools you need in order to do a really good job. For people who are just kind of like, okay, go sell, it's a little bit harder to figure out what you need to do, especially if you don't know the industry well. So if you're coming across a appointment setter position and they say like, here is the training you're going to go through, I would definitely jump on that opportunity because that just opens so many more doors for you personally. Like I said, access to learn the subject matter you're selling. If you don't know inside and out what you're selling, it's a lot harder to sell it or even get people on a call. Growing companies, so you want to see that this company isn't stagnant, it isn't a startup, it isn't kind of going nowhere. It really is. You could see month over month that they're growing, the revenue's growing. Sometimes you don't have access to the revenue, but there's other indicators that they're growing, like their following on social media is growing, more appointments are getting booked. Another one I want to highlight is there's other employees enroll for 6+ months. So this doesn't necessarily have to be another appointment setter in the company, but just other people in the company in general. If other people are sticking around and they love what they're doing, chances are they're getting paid well. They have been given proper training. And if there's not a high turnover, that's a company you definitely want to be a part of. If you've seen that several people are kind of going into the company and coming out, that could, not necessarily always, but that could be a red flag that maybe it's hard to book appointments, maybe they're not being compensated well, or maybe it's really hard to learn the subject matter. And if there are other people in this position kind of getting like, hey, what does the average appointment setter in your company make? What is the average, or what is like the top? What is the minimum? So you could kind of get an idea, like if your goal is to make $3,000 a month and the average person is making that, then that's really great. You just kind of want to ask those questions to make sure that this role is going to be worth it for you. Some red flags I see when going into this role is if someone doesn't have a personal brand and they're saying like, hey, I want you to set appointments for me, but they're not doing any effort to organically market this or have ads running or anything like that, then it's a lot harder to sell. And you could see that the owner of the company isn't necessarily doing their due diligence and creating this personal brand and creating trust. It's all on you. And that's a lot harder to sell than someone who has, you know, a podcast, a YouTube channel, an Instagram, a Facebook, and they're really doing all that they can to market organically, and you're just the one kind of following up. That really sells itself. So that's important to me. All outreach is cold. So I'm fine doing some cold outreach, but if all of the outreach is cold, it's really hard because, again, that person hasn't necessarily built up their personal brand, and you're doing a lot of behind the scenes outreach. And again, they don't know anything about the person, anything about the brand. It's a lot harder to convert. No one else in the role is doing well. That's a red flag to me. So if there's other appointment setters and no one's making any sales, that's something where I would advise you to really look at, is this working? Like, is there a reason why you have a deep personal belief that this is going to work for you? Are you familiar with this person or this product and that's why you're in it? Or are you just in it just because and you don't necessarily see the potential in it? And then if you're just not clear on what's being sold, I think this is another red flag, because if you can't convey what's being sold, then how are you going to get people on the call? Like, you have to have a personal conviction that this is actually going to help people. Otherwise, I think that it's kind of hard to figure out. I think it's kind of hard to explain why they should do it. If you don't know why you would do it, then they're not going to know why they should do it. And so these are kind of some red flags that I see that you might want to think twice before taking the role. Okay, so that is it for appointment setters. Hopefully that gave you some good info on what to look for, what the job is, and feel out if this is something that you feel like you could do, and definitely look for the right company to do it with. Now, closer is another term you're going to hear a lot. This is someone who is closing calls that are already booked on their calendar, typically. So you kind of walk into the day, open your laptop, and you have a list of calls that are already booked, and you're the one hopping on the call with these people. So oftentimes they're getting leads from the appointment setters, which is the previous position I explained, or there's some sort of funnel in place where people click on an ad and maybe go to a webinar and sign up for a call. So calls are being booked without you having to do it. You're just the one simply closing. So most often this position is paid on a commission basis per deal closed. Sometimes you get paid like for taking a call or a call showing up, but a lot of times that kind of commission will go to the appointment setter because they're the ones that did the hard work to get someone to show up. This means you want to get really good at selling the item that you're working with, because you're the last point before they either pay and get into the program or service, or they don't. So you should know the product or service, again, really inside and out, just like the appointment setter. And even more so, like, you're the one answering all the hard questions. They're going to say, how many people does this work for? What is the outcome? I have this question. Do you cover it in this program? They're going to ask all the hard questions, and you're kind of like on the call with them. So if you don't know it, then they're not going to have a lot of confidence. So you have to be very confident, have a personal conviction in what you're selling, know it inside and out, be able to answer most, if not all, questions. Of course, there's always going to be questions where you're like, I really don't know. Like, let me ask the business owner and I'll get back to you on this. But the more you know, the better. I think it can take a little while to get good at closing, because again, I think the biggest thing is the product or service knowledge. You don't know what questions you're going to get asked until you get asked them. And it's just, building that Q&A document for yourself of like, okay, now I know the next time someone asks this question, here's how I can respond. Sometimes a closing role is a different format. So typically what it is you get one call with the person and your goal is to close them on that one call. Some people have a different process. Sometimes it's a 2-call close where it's like, okay, we'll do a second call. Sometimes it is they do a call and they can think about it. But the best clients, you typically convert on the call. So what you want to do is make sure that they have all their questions answered before they get on the call. They're aware that this is a sales call and that you will be presenting a product or service for them to buy. And that if they need to check with anyone else, that person's either present on the call or they're able to make that financial decision, or that they've talked to them about it, because those are kind of the main objections that I've seen is like, need to talk to a spouse, which of course that's a really good thing to be doing in a relationship, but bring your spouse along to the call. Like, you guys could both talk about it while you're on the call and you both can get your questions answered. The other thing is, I want to think about it, which typically means that there's still some more questions in their mind, and then just like not knowing their financial situation. So again, like, if those 3 things are kind of covered before the call of like, hey, here's how much you're typically looking at, they're like aware of the pricing, they have the spouse on the call, and they know that this is a sales call, that's typically when I find that you get the best results. So pros of this, you can make a lot of money if you're good at selling and if you're getting a high percentage of a high ticket item. So again, this is a $10,000 program and you're getting 10% of that, that's $100, or that's $1,000. Wait, let me do the math here. I'll just show you guys. Okay, so if you're selling a $10,000 product and you're getting 10%, that's $1,000. So if your goal is to make $5,000 a month, you literally only have to sell 5 of these. So you could kind of see where your product is falling, how many you would need to sell, and adjust your goals from there. So a lot of people in sales do make pretty good money once they are established with a company, really know the product inside and out, have kind of gone through the questions, know what makes people convert. It's a profitable career, really. And then the cons are, since it's commission based, again, if you don't have a lot of calls or you're not converting them well, you could walk away with no money. And I think one of the cons is, if you're not setting your appointments, then some of your leads won't be qualified, and this can make closing difficult. So I had a position at one point that was a closing position, and there actually wasn't someone setting the appointments. It was an automated system, and people would just ask a series of questions. And of course, I could go through and screen them and delete any calls, but people would lie on it a lot. Like, it would be like, are you ready to invest? Or like, and then people would get on the call with me and they'd be like, I actually don't even have a place to live right now. I'm struggling to afford groceries. And so, of course, like, you don't want to put someone in a bad financial position, so I wouldn't want to like push to close these people. But when my calendar was filled with this, it was really, really hard to get a close. And so then my percentage of closing looked really bad, but it's because there wasn't qualified leads. So some green flags when you're looking for a closing position is, you love what you're selling and you're personally convicted that it meets the needs of the majority of people who are booking the calls. So really figure out what you're personally passionate about. Is it technology? Is it, healthcare? Is it, I don't know, like whatever you could think of, like you would want to know that, hey, personally, I would actually buy this product if I was in the financial position to do so, or if I knew about this, or maybe you've already bought this product or service and you're convinced that most people need this. And so that's going to differ between everyone. There could be a product or service that I would like that you guys wouldn't. There could be one that you like that I wouldn't. So really, when you're looking for a position, look for something that you are 100% passionate about, would absolutely buy, and just really you can convey that when you're selling, because as the closer, again, you're the person who is the last point in line before they buy. So you really want to be confident about what you're selling. You have a full list of qualified candidates each day. So that is a pro. Like if you don't have to book any of your calls, but all the calls are qualified, or at least 80 to 90% of them are qualified, that's going to make your job a lot easier. Other closers in this company are making your desired salary. So if you already see that, like, hey, there's a couple closers and they're both making this amount of money, so that means that I can too, that's a really good sign. And then if people in the company, just like appointment setting, have been in the role for over 6 months, that's a really good sign as well. That means they're being compensated good. That means that the culture is really good and that the product or service is probably really good as well. So some red flags is if you have to go find cold leads to bring on the calls and you're kind of doing both roles, and I'll go into this later. I don't think it's bad to be doing both roles and you do have a lot more control, but if you literally don't know where your next lead is going to come from, that can be really stressful because then you're in a position where you're kind of doing both. There is a high turnover rate, so there have been previous closers, but no one's sticking with it. Not a good percentage of commission if you have to close hundreds of deals in order to make your desired salary. That's a lot of pressure on you, especially if, say you're getting, let's do the math, say you get an average of 5 calls a day and there's 20 weekdays in the month. That would be 100 calls. But if you need 100 closes in order to make your desired salary, that's going to be hard to achieve. Where if you only need to close 20 of these deals, that's going to be a pretty good indicator that this is the right position for you. No knowledge or training on the program or item you're going to be selling. So if someone's not willing to give the time and the training to you, it's going to be really hard to make the sale. And personally, I just think that if someone wants you to sell for them, then you need to know their product or service inside and out. Other considerations, so sometimes, like I said, the setter and the closer are the same role. It can really be beneficial because then you know that the leads you're setting are actually going to be a good fit and you have some background on them before you get on the call. I'm actually in a role like this currently where I am a setter and a closer, and I really, really like it because I know a little backstory on some of the people that are booking. So right now in a position that I'm in, people are going through an automated system and booking calls, and people are coming through me through inbound Instagram messages, and I'm booking some calls. So I'm not having to find any cold leads, which I really, really, and I know that the leads I'm setting from Instagram are probably going to be qualified if I'm asking enough questions. And so I really like this kind of hybrid role. I don't think it'll be forever because this company is growing, but I feel really confident in where it is right now and being able to do both roles and set myself up for success on the closing side. Other considerations, if you are the first appointment setter and closer, it's not a bad idea if you believe in what the company is selling. So previously I've kind of said, if other people are in role making that amount, if people have stayed with the company for 6 months, that's if you're kind of looking for something that's already established to jump into. But I would say if you truly believe in the company that you are selling for, you love the product, and everything else is checking out, if you're the first one in either one of these roles, it'll actually be really beneficial for you in the long run because you'll be able to grow with the company, maybe train more appointment setters, train more closers, and you're the original person. So you'll be able to grow with the company, and I think that at first, you're the one making all the money too. So I don't think that this is a bad idea either. So when you're looking at different pros and cons, just be aware that okay, maybe you are the first one, but if it's a really good setup, then it's going to work really well. And then overall, I find a lot of these clients through groups. So Facebook groups, networking, paid networking groups, job boards, LinkedIn. Just be picky with who you go with, as there's a lot of opportunities. I went on LinkedIn last week just to Google, or not to Google, but to search who is hiring for appointment setting, who's hiring for closing, and there's so many roles. Like, I could probably go find 20 roles of each of these right now, but when I was looking closer, I was like, ooh, I wouldn't want to do this because of this, or oh, it doesn't look like they give a lot of info on their product, or oh, okay, it's like all cold leads and nothing guaranteed. And so I would say there's enough roles that you can be picky. It's not like this is a role where there's only a handful of positions. I think there's a lot of positions open. And so just be very, very picky, screen a lot, figure out what you're passionate about, and take your time really finding the right role, because I think that you could get into a lot of the wrong roles and you could get the position pretty easily. But getting into the right role here is key. And would love to know if you guys have any more questions in this area. I'm happy to make more videos around this. I think that both of these roles are kind of trending right now. I've seen a lot of stuff on social media about closing positions, appointment setting positions. And since I've done both, I just wanted to give you all the info and be super transparent. So if you have any questions specifically about these, again, I'm happy to answer, and I hope this video is helpful for you guys. So see you in the next video, and thank you so much for watching.